All right, listen up, Spuds. This is Zap Brannigan, master of time, space, and everything else in between. And, oh, yeah, winner of this year's Modesty Award. You're listening to You Suck. What's the difference with Al and Tom? Your one stop for this sort of thing. Yeah.
Hey everybody, and welcome to USUK Network's What's the Difference podcast. I am Tom Bruno. Alex Whiteley could not be here this weekend. His wife is his birthday. Happy birthday, Kaz. And for some reason, he thought he could get away with not being there. So instead of losing a host, permanently, we decided to bring in one of the classier members of the USUK team. Everybody say hello to our good friend, Mr. David Rabe.
Hello, everyone.
David, this is gonna be a good time. We've actually never done it like this before. It's always, you might remember David, of course, from Wednesday Night Live,
or doing live shows,
or the Weekly Bazaar with Alex or Tom. But today,
a bit nervous doing this one.
Oh, don't be, man. It's really easygoing. It's a good time. We always have the most interesting people coming on for interviews, and today is no different. I would like to introduce you guys to Peter. Okay, I'm gonna butcher your last name, Alessandria.
Close enough, Alessandria. Yeah.
Darn it, I'm normally not very good at that at all. So I'm 0 for 50. Peter Alessandria, hello, sir. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So you came to us via our good friends over at what the heck's it called? This is usually Alex's deal.
TV Guestpert.
TV Guestpert, thank you very much. See, you're already better at this than me, and you proved it by showing us your amazing camera setup right off the bat.
Peter's show. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, exactly. We're just here. We're all just living in Peter's world, which is a far cooler world than ours. TV Guestpert, who is, as you guys might remember, has given us a litany of amazing guests, and today is no different. So, Peter, you started off in one career and you jumped to another. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, sir?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start at the very beginning. No, I won't.
Please.
So I went to college. I'm from the New York City area. And Tom, I think you're from upstate New York?
I am. Thank you for knowing that. I am from upstate New York. I'm from Kingston. Kingston. Yeah.
And that's by Albany, right?
Yes. It's right next to Fishkill, which is the most, beautiful of names for a town ever. And they had an IBM plant there, or they might even still. And my dad was.
What do they do in that town? I wonder.
They kill a lot of fish and they make computer chips.
Town? Yeah,
it's fish and chips. It's very UK. My dad was an IBMer. He was an engineer for a long time, and then they opened a plant up here in Vermont. And they're like, "Hey, who wants to move for an obscene amount of money?" And my dad's like, "I do." So I went from being a New Yorker to being a Vermonter, I guess. But if you ever ask a Vermonter, I'm not a Vermonter. I'm a Flatlander, even though I'm from New England. I don't know how that works. But you, sir, are from the amazing Empire State as well, huh?
Well, yeah. So I grew up in the New York City area. And the reason I mentioned upstate New York is I went to college in Binghamton, New York, which you may know.
Oh, yes.
And then I went to grad school for law school and for graduate business school in Buffalo.
I went to Buffalo over the summer with the family. I've never been there because it's the complete polar opposite of New York. Everything that I've experienced is primarily on the East Coast of New York, and we went to see the falls. It was pretty cool. I gotta say, everything they say about them is true. It's a big body of water that's going over a cliff.
Well, so Niagara Falls is great, but you don't want to be there in the middle of January. And the reason is, you get that cold weather, but you also get what they call the lake effect snow. So that's when the snow squalls come off of Lake Erie, and they dump like 20 to 30 inches of snow in very specific locations. So basically what happened for me was I was going to grad school. I was going to law school and business school up there in Buffalo. And my third year, I went to visit a friend of mine who was living in San Diego. I had gone to college with this guy.
There's a town I know.
Yes, Dave's from California.
When I got on the plane in Buffalo, it was like 30 degrees, and we had about 15 inches of snow. And this was March. This was late March. I got off the plane in San Diego, and it was 75 degrees and sunny, and he pulled up in a convertible Corvette to pick me up from the airport. And I was like, dude, you live this way? Because I had never been to California before. So that sold me on the Golden State. And so I decided what I did was after I graduated from law school, actually before I even finished graduation, I bought a one-way plane ticket for Los Angeles and I moved my whole life to LA.
Oh, wow.
And my goal was to become an entertainment attorney. And so what I did was I found a job at a law firm. And because they didn't have any entertainment law classes in Buffalo, I had to learn from scratch. And the way I did that was by reading contracts. So I befriended a bunch of entertainment lawyers and I asked to read their contracts. And so I read contracts from the film industry, from the television industry, from the music industry. And that was how I learned entertainment law. Eventually, what I did was I parlayed that into a couple of jobs with production companies that were actually producing film and TV projects. And it was at that time that I discovered the creative process, because as somebody from New York and Long Island, I didn't know anything about filmmaking. I didn't know anything about television production. But one of the perks of the job of being an entertainment attorney was I got to go on the set and see them while they're actually making the film projects. And that was so cool to me. It was so interesting to see the lights and the cameras and all of that. And I'll never forget, the first day on the set, they had just started the first day of shooting. And on the first day of shooting, they were filming the last scene in the movie.
What was the project?
It was a film called Three Wishes that starred Patrick Swayze. It was an independent film project. But so that was so cool to me. It was like, because I always just assumed that they film the project in the order that you see it, but they don't.
No.
They film based. I didn't know. What the heck did I do?
Yeah.
But what happened was, so I fell in love with the creative process. And this was in the 1990s when the independent film industry was just coming up. So the Sundance Film Festival was becoming popular. And it was also the rise of digital video. So for the first time, you could make a film video project on your laptop. And that was a big deal. Today, it seems like nothing. But back in the mid 90s, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I was living in Los Angeles and I started hanging out with all these independent filmmakers, and I kind of got the bug. It was like, I wanted to do that, So I taught myself lighting, I taught myself camera angles, I taught myself sound, and I wrote, produced, and directed 6 short films.
Oh, wow.
Now, they never went anywhere, but they were so much fun. And this is a guy who I never even took like an art appreciation class in college. I never took a photography class. I had my background was economics, law, and business. So here I am showing up on a movie set. I'm directing actors, I'm editing the film on my laptop. And I just thought it was so cool. So that was the beginning of this journey for me. So then in 2008, by that time I had been working for myself for a few years, and I had my own law practice. And actually, we'll back up a little bit. In 2004, I picked up a still camera for the first time, because up until then it was only video for me. And I picked up a still camera and I fell in love with still photography. And I just became obsessed with it. And all I wanted to do when I wasn't working was just take pictures. And again, I taught myself lighting, I taught myself camera angles, I taught myself, all the things that go along with photography. And then in 2008, the global financial crisis hit. Now, we're living through the pandemic today. In a lot of ways, it's very similar, but that was the first time there was a major economic crisis like that in my lifetime. And what happened was I lost my law business. Within a matter of months, I completely lost. I went from a really nice 6-figure lifestyle to nothing. Wow. And so I tried to resurrect that. I was doing everything. I mean, at one point, I even sent out even though I had been an attorney for almost 20 years, I sent out resumes to see if I could get work as a paralegal just to help pay the bills.
Wow.
So, and nothing came. So I realized, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And the more I thought about it, the more I kept coming back to the idea of photography. And I thought, gosh, because that's what I love to do. I was obsessed with photography at that point. And I'd gotten pretty good with my camera. And I thought, well, if there's ever a time I'm going to do this, this is it. So I decided I was going to leave the law behind and pursue my career as a photographer full time. I also decided to move back to the East Coast at that point. I moved to New Jersey. I'm about 45 minutes from Manhattan. I have family. My sister and her kids are right here.
Where in you don't have to get too specific, but I also have a deep connection to South Jersey. All my family is from Cherry Hill and West Deptford, right across the bridge from Philadelphia.
Well, I'm in northern New Jersey. I'm actually about 25 minutes from the New York state line.
Gotcha.
New Jersey. I never knew how beautiful New Jersey was until I lived here. I was kind of a New York snob, and we never came to Jersey.
I got to live in Jersey now? Shit.
We hung out in New York, and the beaches on Long Island are beautiful, the Hamptons, Jones Beach, all of that. So what happened was, I moved my whole life back to the East Coast. Okay, now I'm going to be a photographer. I'm all gung-ho. And for 3 years, nothing happened. And I was like, all right, well, first I thought, well, it's got to be the economy, because the economy was still really slow from the financial crisis. And I thought, no, not really the economy. It must be because I don't have an education in art or photography. I'm completely self-taught in both. That must be the problem. And I realized, no, maybe that's not it. And then it was like, oh, it must be all the competition from all the other photographers out there. I had all these excuses why things were not working out in terms of my business. And one day I realized none of that was the problem. The problem was not out there. The problem was in here. And what was going on in here was I had a very negative self-image when it came to being a creative person. I was filled with self-doubt. I was filled with fear of rejection, fear of criticism. And that conspired to keep me from putting myself out there, really. I had set up a couple of websites for my photography business. I was doing product photography. I was doing portraits and headshots. And I was doing some fine art photography. So I had those websites set up, but I wasn't doing anything really proactive to bring in business. And I was living basically. Good.
How'd you overcome that negative aspect of yourself? Like, what was it that you changed?
You got to read the book. That's what the book is about.
There it is. All right.
So it's be bigger than you think you are, overcoming our self-imposed limits to have the life we want. And this tells the story of how I did it. And it took me 3 years, and I went from somebody who never won an award for anything in my life to someone who has won more than 70 awards for my photography.
Oh, wow.
I went from someone who never thought it was possible to see a photo of mine published in a newspaper or magazine to someone who's had photos published in newspapers and magazines around the world.
Wow.
And from someone who never thought it was possible to even sell one image to someone who has sold prints to collectors as far away as Australia.
Oh shit.
And this was all because I changed how I saw myself. The basic premise of my book is that whoever we think we are is exactly who we're going to end up being in life. And it's possible to change that. See, a lot of people think, well, no, I am the way I am because of my childhood, or I am the way I am because of this or that. And I say, that's the beginning, but that doesn't have to define us. That doesn't have to define who we are in the world. Because I'll tell you, I went from somebody who thought I sucked as a creative person. I mean, that's the reality. I thought I had no talent. I thought people were going to reject me. I thought people were going to, I was afraid to post photos on Facebook. I mean, that's how paralyzed I was with fear, because I thought they were going to criticize me. Now, the truth is, some people do criticize me on Facebook. And I know how to deal with that now. And I've actually turned that's part of the last chapter of this book, is dealing with criticism and dealing with rejection and all of that.
You would think with your background as being a lawyer that you'd be like, well, the heck with that, because I'll tell you right now, I can argue your way down from, no, my stuff is good. And let me tell you exactly why. No, you sit down for a second. I got a law degree. Don't you worry about this. By the time I'm done explaining, you'll understand why I'm a good artist. But the fact
how he argues, takes photos of his awards. He's like, I get it.
Let me show you Exhibit A.
Well, let me tell you what I found out. So since then, I've hung out with a lot of photographers and artists, people who are really talented. But all the talent in the world is not going to make a difference if you don't believe in yourself. See, a lot of people have a negative self-image from experiences when they were little kids that they never questioned. They never stopped and say, gee, is that really true about me? And instead, it becomes the subconscious program that runs our lives, and we're not even aware of it. Now, here's the thing. So I have not, there are people who have overcome much greater things in their life. I watched the interview you and Alex did with Niall McCann, I think his name is, the National Geographic guy. I mean, that guy's like, he's out there wrestling with anacondas, and he's doing some really serious shit. I don't have any of that. But what I have is this thing that whenever I talk to people about it, I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't have at least a little bit self-doubt, a little bit lack of confidence, a little bit lack of self-assurance. And what happens is that causes people to not try to have a bigger life, to have the life they want, and ultimately to not make the contribution that they can make. I mean, imagine if somebody like Steve Jobs felt too insecure to put himself out there as an executive or, you know, a creative person and all of that. So what I found for me was the thing that was holding me back, the problem that the challenge that I had was between my own two ears. And so I began on this journey of reprogramming, and it's quite literally reprogramming my thinking, and primarily my thinking about myself. The other thing that I learned, guys, was that I had to move from what I call being my own worst enemy to my own best friend, because I was so self-critical. See, what I found out later was I didn't have to worry about anybody else's criticism of me. It was only my criticism that was a problem.
That must be a real journey.
What's that?
I said that must have been a real journey to being thinking that you're your own worst enemy to becoming your own best friend. To me, that is just almost impossible. Like, how do you do that?
It's in the book, dude.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna probably gonna order it as soon as I can.
What I did was actually what's cool about this is I set it up as a workbook. I don't know if you can see that, but at the end of each chapter, there are questions. So it's not only that you read it, it's that you actually do the exercises, because that's where the change happens.
Okay.
And the other thing, if you guys want, I mentioned this to Alex, every Wednesday night on Zoom, I do a free online workshop for anybody who's interested. So just go to my website, bebiggertoday.com. It's all one word. And you'll see all the information on the book. There's a bunch of videos from every workshop is about 90 minutes long. And I tape that and I put the videos up there for people. And we're working through the book one chapter at a time.
I gotta say that's very generous of you, considering the fact that you took the time, you wrote this book, you put your heart into it. You're trying to obviously make a couple shekels off of it, because as much as we'd love to do things for free for people, the truth is the world revolves around money. And in your at least once a week for 90 minutes, you go through the book that you are selling, in fact, and you are giving it away in the most public way possible. I just gotta say it's very nice of you.
Well, thank you. But I have to say the satisfaction for me comes when I see people, and I've seen this now, when people take the principles in this book and they apply it to their own life. And when they come back next week, they've made these little changes that over the months I see they're a different person.
And bits of progress, huh?
It's progress, yeah. And I always say the situation is never the problem. The things that challenge us in life. The situation is never the problem. The problem is always and only how we see ourselves in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that actually turns out to be good news, because we often can't change the external circumstances and situations of our lives, but we can always change how we see ourselves. So that's what this book is about. This is how to change your self-image to accomplish whatever you want in life. I don't care what it is. Some people want to be a creative person. Some people want to be a doctor. Some people just want to be a better family, parent or whatever. This applies to all of that, because I've actually brought in about 30 years of my experience in kind of transforming my relationships with other people, but most importantly, my relationship with myself. And I talk about things like self-love and self-forgiveness. And, it's not stuff I hear anybody else talking about. And sometimes I think maybe I'm a little crazy, but that's been the difference for me. It was going from hating myself to just being nicer to myself that I got the courage to start putting my work out there, which is how I won all those awards. It's how I got my photos published in the newspaper. There's a whole story about how I got my first photos published. And that was basically me I cold called one of the biggest newspapers in New York City. I just cold called them. I asked to talk to somebody in the photo department. They put me through to one of the photo editors. I introduced myself and I said, I'm an up and coming New York City photographer, and I would love to send you some of my photos. Maybe you'll want to publish them in the paper. Uh-huh. She was really nice. She gave me her email address and said, sure, send them.
What year was this when that happened?
Probably 2014.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So it's really fairly recent then.
So yeah, he was at that point you were doing photography for 10 years then, correct?
I started full time in 2009.
Oh,
actually
okay.
2010.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So for 9 months, I emailed her photos almost 2 or 3 or 4 times a month, and I never heard from her. Nothing. So I thought, wow, maybe she doesn't like my photos. And I thought, no, that's an old thought that I'm trying to reprogram. I don't know what she's thinking. I don't know how she feels about my work. So the only thing I can do, because the other thing I say, there's no guarantee of success in life, but there is one guarantee of failure, and that's if we give up.
Right.
So I said, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop sending them photos until she tells me to stop. So I just kept sending them and sending them, and then one day I got a phone call from her, and I didn't even know it was from her. I thought it was a spam call. I thought it was like, and it turned out it was this newspaper, and they said, "Oh, we love that photo you sent last week. We want to run it in the paper on Sunday." And I was like, that was my response. I was like, wow, And then she says, "How much do you charge?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck. I don't know."
9 months of ignoring me. Let's see, times.
So, yeah,
$1 million.
It was really important for me to not cop an attitude like that. It was really important for me to stay out of the resentment, because resentment derails so many things in my life. So I had to learn not to go there. And it taught me to believe in myself. It taught me about persistence. It taught me about not giving up. So what happened was they ran the photo in the paper, and then they started calling me. They say, "Did you get any photos of the fireworks last night over in New York City? Or did you get any photos of that storm?" So it went from me not hearing from them to them calling me to see if I got any photos. They ended up publishing 11 of my photos in the paper. And it was all because I didn't take no for an answer. I didn't give up. I didn't cop that attitude. I just kept at it. Persistence.
And well, to be totally fair, though, it's not just because of that. It's also because I'm going to bring up a couple of them right now. They are some of the most amazing photos I've ever seen in my life. This one right here.
Oh, wow.
Can you give me a little bit of information about this picture? It's obviously the New York skyline with an amazing bolt of lightning. Do you want to tell me about that? What happened?
I have a whole collection of those photos. So basically, there's this thing in the Midwest where they go storm chasing. They go after the tornadoes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We don't have tornadoes in obviously. Well, we do have a few, but not in the New York City area. But what we do is I track the weather, and basically what happens is lightning always strikes the tallest point. It's the path of least resistance. So I know that when there's a big storm coming through, we usually get them in the spring and in the late summer, sometimes in the fall. I track those storms on my app on my phone, and I set up cameras, usually 2 or 3 cameras, and I set them up on the World Trade Center, which is the tallest building in New York City, the Empire State Building, and then maybe 1 or 2 other buildings. And we watch as the storm comes through, and I have the camera set to take a photograph when the lightning flashes. And that's how you capture those photos. The problem is you usually got to sit out in the rain for hours, so
that was my imagination when Alex first sent me this picture. I'm like, I just see him huddled underneath a tarp, like just sitting there being like, it's gonna be worth it. It's
over and over again, just click, hoping for it.
Well, yeah, go home. I go home with like 2,000 photos to get one right, because you never know. Because lightning goes fast.
Yeah, blink of an eye and all that. They're very phenomenal. Let's bring up a couple more just because they are so incredibly good. What is going on with this photo right here? I can see the I don't know what those lights are called. I know they're supposed to resemble exactly the Twin Towers and all that. But where are you in a tunnel? What is this picture?
So the lights that you see are called the tribute lights, and they're actually that's almost excuse me. That's almost a location in Lower Manhattan where the Twin Towers used to stand. So every year on 9/11 for 24 hours, they shine those lights. Now, if you look to the left, that tall building on the left is the new World Trade Center. So it wasn't actually built on the exact spot of the old Twin Towers because there's now a memorial there for that.
Okay.
And so these lights go for 24 hours. You can actually see these lights from space. That's how intense they are. And now where I am, I'm across the Hudson River in Jersey City in New Jersey. And this is a memorial. What you're looking at, I'm looking through this memorial that was constructed for the people from New Jersey who were lost on 9/11.
Yeah, I could see the names on either side.
Well, here's the thing. This is what's so interesting about that photo. I showed that photo in an exhibition in Jersey, and somebody came to that exhibition and they saw the photo and they looked really close and they saw the name of somebody's brother who was killed on 9/11. And the brother contacted me, and he bought that picture for his family because it has the brother's name in there. Now, I had no idea. I get chills when I think about it. I had no idea that it was going to impact him and his family that way. But that's what I love about photography. I have the ability to touch people's lives that I don't even know. I have no way of knowing how my work is going to touch somebody else's life. And if I kept thinking that I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes, they're not going to like me, I'm going to be rejected, I would never take those pictures and put them out there where people could see them. So that's why I believe overcoming our self-imposed limits, these negative thoughts and beliefs that many of us carry about ourselves, is so important. Because you never know what kind of contribution you can make to the world.
It's true. It's such a beautiful way it's a beautiful thing that this person found this, because obviously they lost somebody and they got this amazing photograph to commemorate and memorialize their lost one that was lost. It's a beautiful thing. And not only that, it's a great thing that you came over this self-doubt that you had and this this fear of being rejected, because otherwise you would not have the creative outlet that you have right now. And creative outlets are some of the only things that I feel keep a lot of us sane. It's one thing to go and work a job, right? Like I build helmets for the military, and I know that when I do a good job, it's going on a soldier's head, it's keeping them safe in combat, and that's a really good feeling. And I love what I do. But without the podcasting, without the creative outlet that I have, I feel like I just lose my mind most days. Do you feel that way?
Well, here's the thing. So, yes, absolutely. And when you turn that into a business, now all of a sudden the stakes are much higher. And also a lot of the stuff that I do creatively, I do for clients basically as a commission. So it's not what I want, it's what they want. Right. And so I've had to learn how to tailor my creativity to be of service to them, to realize their vision rather than my own vision. And at first that was really hard, because for 10 years I had been doing photography for myself. And now, because I'm getting paid to do it, I have to make sure that what I'm doing meets their standards. And it's not always how I would do it.
I was about to say, do you find that to be hampering towards your creative outlet? Because obviously you fell in love with photography just for the sheer joy of it and how it made you feel, not because you were getting any money for it. And of course, the upside being that is eventually you started, winning awards and making you money, and you became renowned for such a thing. But when somebody calls you and they're like, "Oh, I want you to get a picture of this dog," does that kind of bring you down, or does that make you feel good knowing that somebody wants your photo? Doesn't matter what it is.
I don't do pet photography. Or kids.
Price is right. I'd take pictures of anything. You want to
take pictures of the pets all day. Yeah. Pets all day for free.
It's nothing against pets and nothing against people who photograph pets. It's just not my thing. But I will be honest with you. That was a bit of a challenge at first, was to really say, wow, I have to make sure that, I'm providing a service, and I have to make sure that it meets their needs. So a lot of the stuff that I started doing was product photography. So I was photographing all kinds of products. And so I had to make sure that I was fitting into their plan. And it was a little difficult at first, but I eventually figured out how to navigate that. And I separate that out from stuff like this. This is my fine art photography, the stuff that you're showing, that I do for me. And the great thing about this book is I've gotten to the point where I don't really care if people like it or not. My self-esteem is no longer contingent on what I think other people think of me. Now, another thing that's really cool is this book, right? So this is New York Cityscapes. This is a collaboration between myself and 6 other New York City area photographers. And it's basically a photo book of the New York City skyline.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so what we have in here is basically the same landmarks in the New York City area from 7 different points of view.
Oh, that's cool.
That's really interesting.
And every one of them is different. So this book, the publisher came to me and said, "We want to do a photo book with you." And I said, "That's great, but my idea is I want to get other people involved. I have this great network on Instagram, and I have met so many cool people on Instagram, all these New York City area photographers. And I thought, I really want to do collaboration with my friends from social media. So I pitched it to the publisher, actually from Buffalo, this company, Amherst Media. And they said, sure, that sounds good. So I said, I gathered up a bunch of my favorite photographers. And people say, who inspires you? And I always say it's the people that I see on social media that inspire me. It's not some famous photographer. I mean, Ansel Adams is great or whatever. But
I was going to ask you, who is he?
Exactly.
Ansel Adams. That's who I think
that's
of.
that's the go-to photographer for everyone. Everyone's
Yeah,
like, hey,
his stuff is great, but it's the people I see on Instagram every day. And I've gotten to know a lot of these photographers, and they don't do this for a living. One of my favorite photographers, he works for the New York City sanitation department.
Really?
Yeah, and there are people I know who are housewives, or whose kids have graduated college, and now they're looking for something. The parent is looking
Like a
for something
hobby?
to do with their time, a hobby.
Yeah.
And these people, they're out right next to me when it's snowing, when it's raining, when it's in the middle of the night. Because the other thing that we do is we chase the moon a lot. So I don't know if you have any more of my photos, Tom, but
I totally
have a bunch
do.
with the moon.
I got
I love the
And we
moon
have
to begin with. Oh, wow. What the fuck?
That's a
we
time
have-
lapse, I'd imagine.
That's a time
No, no.
lapse.
Yeah,
That's-
long exposure, right?
That's about 12 minutes of time elapsed there. And what that
so
is
cool.
is the full moon rising behind the Empire State Building. Now, I have an app that tells me where the moon is going to come up each night and where it's going to go down.
Mhm.
So I set up and I wait for that moon to come up, and then I track it. Now, what happens is, you can imagine in New York City, there's a lot of places, it comes up in a different place every night. It's not like the same every night. So I never know until that day where I'm going to be. And I have to go on Google Maps, and I have to plot out the trajectory and all of that. And I often end up in places that are either not so safe, or places that I don't belong. I've actually got stopped by the police 14 times in the last 6 years.
It's a good thing you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm a lawyer, yeah. Because I'm out in the middle of the night in places that I don't belong.
What do you do with the camera in the middle of the night?
And I say to them, I'm taking pictures of the moon, and they look at me like I'm fucking crazy. They say we've heard every lie in the book. We never heard that one before.
Really?
So what
That's
I do is I
amazing.
pull out my phone and I start showing them my photos, and every time they're like, "Wow, you took that photo?" So it goes from being totally suspicious of me to like, "Wow," and now they follow me on Facebook and Instagram and all that.
Oh, great. You have cops stalking you now. Shit.
That's amazing. And now Peter has one of the biggest followers of police activity. And he's like, everyone just wants to know. They're like, hey, did you catch any crimes on your camera tonight by chance? You could really help us out.
Imagine.
What kind of equipment do you use for this? Because I mean, like, everybody just feels like they can go outside with their phone. And don't get me wrong, phones are amazing now. They have some pretty great cameras in there. You can do some amazing stuff with it. But I mean, obviously, if you want to turn this into a little bit more of a hobby, you need to put a little bit of money into it. What kind of gear would you use, or do you use?
Yeah. So first, I would say, you know what? I mean, I love. It amazes me, absolutely amazes me, the creativity that I see with people who do use their phones. And I just want to acknowledge anybody who's out there taking pictures with a phone. I'm not a snob about it. I don't have an opinion saying, that's not real photography. I know there are some photographers who feel that way. I think it's great. It's just another way of expressing yourself.
Right.
That said, I rarely use my phone for photography. I'm using high-end Nikon cameras and lenses. So all the cameras I have, both my cameras are Nikons. They have the interchangeable lenses, so I have the big telephoto lenses, I have the wide angle lenses and all that. So I'm constantly changing lenses, and they're very high resolution. They're called full frame cameras. So they have beautiful performance and all that. That's the only way to get photos like this. You can't do that with a phone.
Yeah.
No.
So
It'll just be
I've
like a
tried.
blur.
Yeah. In the background, there's like, I think the moon's somewhere back there.
That white blinding light. Yeah, that's the moon.
Yeah. See, I'm really glad actually that we're speaking to you today, Peter, because I'm actually embarking on something I'm not comfortable with. Like, I'm very comfortable with the podcasting at all, being on camera like this. I'm very comfortable on. I've been doing it for 3 years now, and I love what I do. But we're trying to add new content to our website, and one of the things that I volunteered to do, to step out of my comfort box, one, but two, also to be a bigger help to the network, was I offered to start vlogging my daily day-to-day life, because all of us, part of the USUK network, and what's great about it is we're from different parts of the globe. There's people over in the UK, David's over there in California, I'm over here in Vermont, and we all live different lives and we do different things every day. And I thought it'd be great if we started showcasing how we live our lives. Doesn't matter how mundane it might be. It doesn't matter what it is. Just it'd be cool to show people how we live, and a little bit better to interact with the audience with. Now, I'm not super comfortable or confident myself with, just walking around with a camera and just filming myself like I'm something important when I really don't feel that way. What kind of advice could you give to somebody like me who really needs to step up his game a little bit and really wants to have that full confidence of walking in a room and be like, yes, I'm doing this for a reason and I'm okay with it?
All right. Well, after reading the book,
I knew the answer is in the book.
After the book.
Well, no, because it truly is. Look, Tom, I mean, you have to decide for yourself. But for me, I really saw that it was just this, see, here's the thing. We have this negative, many of us, not everybody, but we have this kind of negative self-image that we don't question. Like, I just heard you say, I don't remember exactly what you said or how you said it, but it was almost like, well, it was almost like I'm not good enough, or people are not going to like it, or I don't really have something to contribute, or something like that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I don't know. That's what I would say.
You're a lawyer. You can say whatever you want to, man. I believe in you.
Well, so that's what I would say about myself. And I have to realize that's the first problem. Because as long as I'm walking around thinking, I don't have anything to contribute, they're not going to like it, it's just more of the same, what's so special about me? That's the problem right there. Because that frame of mind stops us from making the effort, because it is effort. None of this comes easily. Listen, being a lawyer was easy compared to being a photographer. I got to tell you.
Really?
Oh, fucking worked my ass off as a photographer.
So it was a lawyer you didn't?
Yeah. He passed the bar, no problems. He's like, that was simple. The photos is hard. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was. I'm telling you, it was. And here's the other thing. Yeah, I had to learn how to deal with disappointment. Because I think I've won 74 awards for my photography. And I do a lot of public speaking. And so when I share that with a group, usually if it's a group of photographers or students, I say I've won 74 awards for my photography, and I can see everybody in the audience, their faces light up. And then I say, but for every one of those awards, there's been at least 5 failures, rejections, and disappointments.
Right.
And then all of a sudden their face goes down. And I know it's because we don't like to hear about failures, rejections, and disappointments. But welcome to life. Very few people that have that success the first time out, or even the 5th time out. Now, you guys did an interview with Brian Graydon, the guy from MTV Networks and all that.
We absolutely did.
And he seems to he has a pretty good success record, but he even talked about some of the projects that didn't work out. We all face that situation where things don't go the way we think they're supposed to go. And then we have to make a decision. This is what happened with that newspaper. I had to make a decision. Am I going to stop sending my photos and put my tail between my legs and feel sorry for myself because I haven't heard from them in 9 months? Or am I going to continue to stay on track with my vision, believe in myself, believe that I have something important to contribute? And here's the thing. I tell you, not everybody loves my photography. And when I first found that out, I was shocked. I was shocked. But that's just the reality. It's like not everybody's going to love me. Not everybody's going to love my work. But when I love myself and when I believe in myself, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Of course, I want people to like my photography. I want people to buy my book and do all of that. But I no longer hinge my sense of self. I no longer hinge my value and worth as a person based on what I think other people think of me.
Do you ever think of yourself as the real life Peter Parker, by the way? Because I just see like that person being J. Jonah Jameson being like, get me pictures of Spider-Man. I don't want the New York skyline, just hammering away at the desk and stuff and just shooting your stuff down for that time. And then finally coming across that one amazing photo where they called you up and then like, oh, we want to run this in the paper. Can you go into a little bit more depth? Like, what's that feel like after all that work and all that effort and all that time, and all of a sudden getting the phone call you've been waiting for this long period? What would that feel like?
Well, let me tell you. Let me give you another story. So another example of this. So, you have any fireworks photos?
I do.
I sent Alex. Just show a couple of those because there's a story behind that.
Okay.
So one of the cool things about New York City is that we have these fireworks displays over the Manhattan skyline.
No, that's not it.
And I think it's in January, late January, early February, there's the Lunar New Year celebration, which is a Chinese New Year.
He didn't send me any. Sorry to cut you off. He did not send me any fireworks. He sent me a lot of the of your work, and that's in the paper. He sent me a lot of the Statue of Liberty, which, by the way, my son saw when I was prepping the show. He came by, and prior to COVID, he wanted to go see the Statue of Liberty so bad. He knew Daddy came from New York. He loves the Statue of Liberty for whatever reason it is. I don't know what point in his life.
Because he's American.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm American. I should love that big lady that came from France.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but he loves Statue of Liberty, and that was going to be his birthday gift last year. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of him asking to go see the Statue of Liberty. Yeah,
so I'm going to send you a print for him. Let's see if you can see this.
Wow.
So can you see this photo?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's fucking amazing.
That's a Statue of Liberty.
Yes, that's amazing.
I'll send you a print for him.
Holy shit.
Dude,
what's his name?
His name's Deacon.
All right. So make sure I get your info before we finish.
Thank you so much, Peter. That's gonna blow his mind, and his birthday is literally in 2 weeks, and this is gonna. I mean, don't worry, I don't expect it to get here in 2 weeks, but like that is gonna blow his mind having something like that show up. And I'll make sure I get a reaction video of him opening it because he just is obsessed with the Statue of Liberty. And then once again, I don't know what happened or what. Like, maybe it was. We used to make a big deal. Like I said, we travel up and down the East Coast a lot, and we always drive through. What is that? 91 going up there. 89. 95, thank you very much. My wife is the one that drives, not me. And we always make a big deal about trying to see the Statue of Liberty off in the distance as we drive on the highway. And we're always like, can you see it? Can you see it? And he's always like, I can see it. He tells me on a daily basis, because we live across the Canadian border, that he can see it in the distance. I was like, yeah, sure, buddy. Whatever you say. That's not Canada at all. That's the Statue of Liberty, I promise you.
I can do this one if you like too, with the moon.
Oh, wow.
Whichever one you want to, Peter. I mean, I appreciate it so much. You have no idea how kind that is. And thank you so much. And guys, I hope anyone that's actually watching the videos right now can go and pick up New York Cityscapes, or at least pick up his book, because you'd be doing me a favor.
Get both of them. Shit.
Yeah, get both of them.
You get both of these on my website, bebiggertoday.com. It's all one word. Be Bigger Today, and you can find both of them.
Perfect.
So what I was going to say about the fireworks shots was, so there was Lunar New Year. It was in February, and they do the Chinese American Association, they do this big fireworks display. So maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I went and I was taking some photographs, and this is when I was still kind of finding my way with all of this. And I came home and I looked at my photographs and I said, wow, these are really good. You know, I was proud of myself.
Yeah.
And then I thought, maybe I should find out who actually does the fireworks show. So I went online and I tracked it down to this company, this New York City, Long Island-based company called Fireworks by Grucci. And it turns out Fireworks by Grucci is one of the largest fireworks companies in the world. Wow. So I went to their website and I thought, I just had this idea in my head, that, I want to believe enough in myself. I want to believe that my work is good. And the only way I can prove that is if I take a chance. If I take an action that proves that that's how I see myself. Because remember, it's always how we see ourselves that determines how our life goes. So I said, I found the company website. I went to the contact page, and there was an email address, and I sent about a half dozen of my photos from that night. I said, you guys did a great job. I just wanted to share some of my photos with you. Within 20 minutes, I got an email back, and it was from the president of the company. For some reason, he was monitoring the company email that night.
It was
He says, I love your photos. I want you on my team.
Wow.
I was like, holy shit,
That's
so
crazy.
I ended up signing on as an official photographer for them. They sent me all over the world. They sent me to Dubai. They sent me to the Maldives. Photographing their performances. It's a great company, great gig. Their business, because of the pandemic, there's not much going on these days,
Right.
In terms of these public performances. Hopefully it'll come back. But that was another example of me just saying, I have to change how I see myself, and I have to take the steps to prove that I have this, that I have this belief in myself. And I wasn't expecting anything. And it turned into me traveling the world as an official photographer for one of the most important and preeminent fireworks companies in the world.
That's incredible.
So that's the message I want to share with you guys and anybody who's watching. It's like, you got to believe in yourself, but it's like, it took steps to get to that place where I actually believed in myself. And I still have it, guys. I mean, I've been working on the stuff from this book let me tell you how the book came about.
Please.
Yeah.
I never set out to write a book. So I was, this was in February 2019. I was in Los Angeles. I was back in LA for the first time since I had left in 2009. And I was shooting a lifestyle, it was basically a product photography lifestyle shoot for a client. They do skateboards and stuff like that. And so they sent me to LA to shoot this campaign for them. And when that was done, I was going to go up to Northern California to Yosemite to take pictures of Yosemite, because I had never been to that park before, even though I lived in California for 20 years. So finished the shoot in LA, everything went great, got in the car, drove up to Yosemite, get out of the car, okay, at the visitor center. And I'd been in the car for like 5 hours, so I was and I got out and I tripped. I caught my leg on a curb. There were some vending machines, so I couldn't really see it. I caught my leg on the curb. I didn't actually fall, but I just caught it in the right way that I tore my calf muscle.
Oh, fuck.
And I don't know if you've ever done that. Number one, it's the most painful thing in the world. Number two, you can't walk. I was immediately rendered lame. And I knew in that moment that my trip was over. There was no way. So, but what happened in that moment was a very clear thought came into my head. And that thought was, now you can write your book. Now, I had been thinking about writing this book for a long time, but at that moment, it was the last thing on my mind.
It was the universe telling you, you're going to stop and you're going to write your book.
I call it David, I call it a moment of clarity. You call it, you guys call it what you want. I will say, that moment came and went. It's not like I have the universe talking to me all the time, but it was very clear. And it was because I was in so much pain, but it came through like a laser. And that night when I got to the hotel in Yosemite, I started writing the book. Wow. And for the next 9 months, I worked on it every day, got it done, published it in October of 2019. And then what happened was I wanted to do the audiobook. And, I have experience doing video production, but not really. I know a little bit about audio production. So I said, I'm going to do it. And it was really important for me to do it in my own voice.
Yeah.
And so I started working on that, and it became this huge thing. It was just, I was re-recording it and re-recording it and re-recording it, the whole thing. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, my business stopped. Everything stopped. So now I had nothing but time on my hands. So I started working on the audiobook full time. And what happened was that turned into a second edition. Because as I was reading it, I was seeing, I want to change this, I want to change that. So I'm actually just about to finish the audiobook in the second edition of the book, which should be out in the next month or so. Okay. And that was because of the pandemic, because I have not been able to, none of us have done much in the last year. And so that's the hidden gem in there. And that's how the book came about. And
I'm glad that you're doing an audio version, because that's generally how I take in any book that I've been reading in the last 3 or 4 years. I have an Audible account.
Read that well.
No, I can't read. I'm illiterate, but that's okay though, because I listen to books and it makes me sound smart, because I still, take them in. I'm like, oh, did you happen to hear this? Or, did you read this? That's an amazing story. That's such a cool way to turn one of the most horrible things that could potentially happen to somebody in your circumstances, right? Like, you're a photographer, you rely on your legs to be able to bring you around, to take the photos of all these amazing firework displays and all these beautiful pictures of the landscapes, the cityscapes, excuse me. And then you like you said, you became lame by unfortunate circumstances, and you turn that into the diamond in the rough. And I just find that to be so amazing.
Thank you. And you know what? For me, it was just it was this intuitive knowing. It's just, I have to do this, and I have it turned into, it was more than 6 month rehabilitation from my leg. So it was a long, protracted thing, and I wasn't able to work. So it was and being self-employed, I had a little bit of money saved, but so it was a lot of challenges. And even now, there's still, with the pandemic, my photography business has really dwindled. So there's a lot of challenges. And I realize every day I have to choose how I'm going to feel about myself and about my life. Mm-hmm. And much of my life, I spent a lot of time feeling sorry for myself. I spent a lot of time being jealous of other people who had success. I was very judgmental of other people, all that negative stuff. And I realized that I get to choose every day, how am I going to see myself? How am I going to see the world? How am I going to see other people? Mm-hmm. And, I have a whole different life today than I had just even a few years ago.
Now, you stated that you've traveled all over the world to take pictures for this very prominent fireworks displays. With all your travels, has there ever been something that you really wanted to take a picture of that you just didn't have the means or you didn't have the ability to get to? Is there something that you like, that's my bucket list? What's your bucket list of places you really,
dream?
Your dream pictures. Where are the places you really want to take pictures?
David, where in California are you?
Southern California.
Yeah, Southern California. Okay.
Orange County area.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I lived in LA for 20 years, so I'm familiar with that whole. So my bucket is to get back to Yosemite because I never got to take one photo while I was there.
Oh no! I was going to ask you if you've ever done any skyline photos of LA.
I have a few. Can I share my screen with you guys or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see.
Is there a way to share?
I think so. I think I can. Hold on, let me see if I can.
I said yes, even though Tom's the one running tech.
I know, right? It's such a horrible decision on Alex's part to have me run tech. I was trying to see if I can give you the power. Give you the power.
It looks like I can. So let me see if I could find.
Please.
What I want to share. So wait a second. Give me 1 second because I wasn't prepared for this.
No, you're good.
I think you're gonna like this, David, and see if you recognize it.
Like I wanted to ask you about the LA skyline, and then what was your trip like to Dubai? Because I've always been really interested in how beautiful that place is.
Fancy with lots of fast cars. That's exactly how his trip was to Dubai.
Like you're a peasant if you don't drive around on a Lamborghini, right?
I think so. I think they actually give you one when you fly in the airport. They're like, oh, here's Lamborghini.
All right, can you guys see this?
Let's see. Oh, I got it up.
Oh, Tom. He'll come back, I'm sure.
David, can you see it?
I can't see it still. I just see just you and I on the screen right now. Tom went somewhere. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he'll pop in again.
Don't mind me. I'm just taking myself out of the stream.
There we go. Oh, wow.
Wow. Is that Dubai?
No. That's LA.
That's LA?
Behind there is Big Bear, right?
That's Big Bear, San Bernardino Mountains.
Yep.
Wow. I didn't see if I would have never seen this, I would have not known there was a mountain range that close to LA. I always think
there
of
is.
It as okay.
See, this is why Southern California is like a weird fucking place because you could be in Big Bear in the snow, and then in less than fucking 4 hours, you can go into beaches in Southern California.
See, that makes sense because the Hollywood sign is in the hills, and I always just assume that's on, just a hill or something like that. Wow, this is all LA, huh?
This is
wow, LA. Look at that storm coming in. You really are a storm chaser, huh?
I had no idea. I froze my ass off that day too. That was one of the coldest days.
Here in California, you cold? No.
It was freezing that day.
Wow, look at these. For anyone that can't, that's not watching right now and they're just listening, right now we're seeing the most beautiful shots, and I really recommend that you go to our YouTube channel or to the website and check out these photos that Peter is showing us right now. There's some of the most beautiful and breathtaking photos of the LA skyline that I've ever seen in my life. Once again, I've never seen anything like it.
And let me see if I could pull up some
that one.
shots.
Ooh.
And no filters, right? This is just pure nature photos.
Sometimes I use a glass filter on the front of the lens.
Okay.
But it's not like an Instagram filter or anything like that.
And
Right.
what's a glass filter do exactly for a layman like myself that's very unfamiliar with it?
There are two different glass filters that we use. One is called a polarizer. The polarizer will basically accentuate color, make the
So that's what
colors
makes it more vibrant.
more vibrant, more saturation. And the other is what they call an ND filter, which is kind of like sunglasses for your camera, in that it limits the amount of light that comes into the lens. And by limiting the amount of light, you can do a long exposure. And what happens with a long exposure is anything that's moving during the exposure takes on that surrealistic, that blurry kind of surrealistic look. So that's the ND filter. Let me see if I can pull up some Dubai shots real quick for you guys.
Those were incredible fucking photos.
Dubai is amazing. So you know the Burj Khalifa? It's the tallest building in the world. It's half a mile tall.
It's that rather oddly built one, right? It's kind of like this all around sort of thing, I believe, right? I think.
Can you?
Not too certain. I remember I've seen a couple photos and videos of places like Dubai and everything, but I'm not familiar with the buildings' names.
Yeah, I'll show you. So this is the Burj Khalifa.
Very sorry about that, by the way. My wife's not feeling too great. It's really not the day for recording, apparently, because my wife's not feeling very good. Alex's wife is having her birthday, obviously, and it was the same day that because we live in such an isolated area. I live right on the Canadian border. There's not a lot of stuff around, but we've had recently a very great string of luck with kids moving into our neighborhood, which is awesome. It's one of the greatest things ever. But like I said yes to both of my kids today to have friends over. And yeah, at the same exact time, and they're just like, we're coming over too. And I'm like, oh, that's not gonna work for Dad. But Ari said yes. Whoopsies. Let me add this to the
stream. You want to cut it?
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't know.
Wow. So yeah, that's the building I was thinking of.
So yeah, this is the Burj Khalifa. This is the tallest building in the world. It's half a mile tall, guys.
Wow.
And it's actually, what's really cool is it's the side of the building is like a billboard. It's all LED lights. So at night, these are some sunset. It's got this huge artificial lake around it.
Yeah, but all the lakes and everything that are around there, they all dug themselves, and it's in the shape of a palm tree, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's actually an island in the ocean. They created an artificial island that looks like a palm tree.
That's pretty cool. These are some beautiful fucking photos.
This is as the sun goes down. This was designed by an American architect, by the way. So at night, they light up the side of the building.
Oh, I see it.
So it's amazing. And they have all different messages, all different designs, and they play music. And then in the water, there are fountains. So it's hard to see there, but there are fountains at the base of the building that go in sync. Yeah. They go in sync to the music. It's really spectacular.
Wow.
So how long were you there in Dubai?
That's a half a mile tall. I went there twice. And what I did was I photographed the show, and then I spent a week on my own in Dubai. And again, Instagram, I met these great local Dubai photographers on Instagram. We hung out. They took me around. They showed me the city.
Wow, that's really cool.
That's it. That's the beauty of social media.
They are breathtaking. I'm not gonna kid you, Peter. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing that it's always cool to hear the transformation of people and how they go from being from being one thing to another. And this is just one of those stories that I couldn't be more thankful for you to tell us, because you don't have to be who you think you should be. You don't have to be what you are. You can always be whoever you want to be, and you're just one of those prime examples of that. And I got to ask you, because it's my favorite question to ask our guests, and I always should do it at the beginning of the interview, but I always save it for the end because I'm a gluttony for punishment. I'm a glutton for punishment. Excuse me. So obviously we see who you are. We heard about who you were. What'd you want to be when you were a kid?
It's like the toughest question for the interview.
I know.
Yeah, no, I think it was, every kid wants to be a baseball player, fireman. I got into, my dad was really cool. He owned a motorcycle shop on Long Island, so I got into motocross when I was pretty young.
Oh, that's awesome.
I wanted to be a motocross ride, stuff like that. But guys, honestly, I went to law school because I didn't want to get a job after college. I never had these grand ambitions until, I made that career transition in 2009, and I realized, wow, I have a passion for this. You got to remember, all the photos you just looked at, I've never taken a photography class. I've never taken an art appreciation class. I don't know anything about that. Everything I know, I've learned from doing, and just challenging myself and trying new things and all of that. So that's been my passion. And now I got to be honest, this is my passion. I want everybody to have the life that they want. And again, I see it in so many people. I have met so many talented photographers and artists and all that who don't believe in themselves. And they're afraid to show their work. They're afraid to put themselves out there. So, and you know what? It's not just photographers. You could be a mathematician. You could be, whatever, I don't want people to hide their light under that bushel anymore. I want people to shine, to show who they really are and pursue what matters to them, because that's how we touch other people.
You should have that on bumper stickers, sir. I'm not gonna lie. That is some of the most inspirational thing. And I hope everyone takes that into their hearts a little bit today and takes that into their minds.
I am definitely
about that. Peter, we are unfortunately running up on our time, my good sir. Can you please tell everyone how they can keep track of you, where they can find your book, your website? Give us the whole spiel, my friend.
Give
where
us
can
your
they find
Instagram
you?
as well.
Yes, please.
Yeah, most importantly is the website. It's bebiggertoday.com. BEBIGGER today.com.
And we will
find out all about the book. You'll see a link on the home.
Sorry, I was about to say we will post a link to that when this episode gets released. So if you guys really want to check out his book, and I definitely recommend you do so, you can click on the link that's below.
And there will be on the homepage, there's a link to the online workshop every Wednesday night. So you just click on that. It's totally free to register. It's Zoom. If people don't want, you can hide your camera if you want, if you're shy or whatever, and just listen. You can also watch old, past workshops every week. I update it so you can watch them. If you want to see my fine art photography, it's my name, Peter Alessandria Photography, all one word. Hopefully you guys have a link for that. Instagram, it's the same, at Peter Alessandria. Facebook, again, at Peter Alessandria. I don't do Twitter. And then I have a YouTube channel, although the YouTube channel is mostly stuff from the book. So just actually go to bebiggertoday.com or go to Peter Alessandria Photography, and you can actually just Google my name. It'll all show up.
Wow. Peter, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been such a great conversation. I love meeting people like yourself, the people that kind of like took their passion, make it happen, and that should be on a bumper sticker as well. I'm gonna be rich. And I just want to thank you for your time, and I just want to say thank you for being you, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Alessandria.
Thank you, guys, and likewise, Tom. I just want to acknowledge you and Alex. I see you guys are. You're doing your passion, and I've been catching up on your interviews the last few weeks, and I really enjoy it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And you were very well versed in the episodes, and I was like, all right, the guy actually listened to it. Because some people are like, oh, I'm familiar. You did a couple things or something. I'm like, yeah, we did, I guess. I don't know. But you actually could, verse exactly what we did. So thank you very much, Peter. And I appreciate you, man. And once again, please, if you ever once everything opens back up and you start making trips again, we really want you to come back on, because I know Alex is missing out on an opportunity that he just relishes in. This is his bread and butter. He is this type of guy, and I'm sure he's gonna be kicking himself when he hears this interview. He's like, I missed that. Tom, why didn't you ask this question? What are you doing? But in a very British way.
I'll come back anytime you want. David, great to meet you.
It's great meeting you, Peter.
Make sure you send me your information for your son.
Yes, I will do that as soon as it's over.
Peter, I just want to wish you the best of luck, and once everything opens up, man, I wish you keep doing what you're doing, and I hope everything turns out well for you.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right. So me and David are going to continue on for a couple more minutes and just geek out and talk for a few. But everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Alessandria. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Peter.
Hey guys, welcome to the Later Lounge. Why don't you sit on back in your easy chair, get yourself a drink, light yourself a joint, because we are letting our hair down. In fact, I recommend you do that right now, David. Let your hair down. Show the guys what we're doing.
The ponytail.
Yeah, take that down. Wave that mane of yours in the. There we go. Now that our hair is let down, guys, what an exciting interview that was. Like, it never ceases to amaze me when you think something is going to be like something, right? Like, I had no idea what this interview was going to be like, and I had no idea what kind of person Peter was going to be. Then you end up getting this amazing, reassuring breath of fresh air that, you know, even if you don't believe in yourself, as long as you put in a little bit of effort and you really just, you know, put forth the energy, man, you can become an award winner of Peter's caliber. So it's always a great thing to see. David's lighting up a cigar, so don't worry about that. Nope. I got kids around about. Nope. Sorry about that, guys. What the weekly kid interruptions, that's what happens when my daughter and my son are trying to get my attention. So that was obviously an amazing interview, and once again, Alex is gonna be kicking himself for the fact that he missed it. What a loser, hanging out with his wife, right? David went away, so it's just me. That's okay though. So let's think here. What have I been up to this week?
Okay,
Oh, there he is. Yeah, you're back.
Sorry.
How you been, David?
I'm doing good, man. That interview was very wholesome and shit. Oop.
You did exactly right. You took yourself out of the interview because obviously.
You there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You there?
God damn it. Sorry, dude. I'm outside and my Wi-Fi is like fucking up.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's okay though. It's not a big
We're
deal.
still good. We're still good. Oh, fuck.
Everything's
Everything's falling apart now. We need Peter back.
I know, right? Peter with his 2 cameras can make our show look far better than it really is. What have you been up to this week, David?
Other than being sick as hell yesterday?
Yeah, what was that all about?
I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and I had a really bad reaction, I guess, to it. And man, I was just fucking miserable the whole like night. I couldn't sleep the other night. I just fucking in pain, constant pain.
See, that's crazy because I literally have just been reading all about that on the news about how people have been having these really severe reactions to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So since we have eyes or at least needles in the skin, tell me what were you feeling?
Man, so it started off kind of slow. I got maybe about like an hour of sleep, and I kind of somewhat woke up like in that semi-conscious like state. I could feel my body getting stiff and achy, which was like, you get used to that when you're sick. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I just try to roll over and try to go back to sleep and ignore it. But it just kept progressively getting worse and worse and worse as it went on. I started getting the stiff and achy, and I started shivering uncontrollably for no fucking reason. I was like hot and cold. I just could not stop shaking. I was getting these painful, really cold chills that went all throughout my body every once in a while. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I kept tossing and turning because I could not find a comfortable position to just sleep in. Wow. So that's what made my body so sore, was that constant just shivering, like tensing up and tossing and turning. And I fucking, it was just so goddamn miserable, dude. At one point, my lungs got really cold for some reason. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, dude?
Wow, dude. See, my wife's been really not in a bad way, not in a way of like, oh, complaining, but she's been, really hurting from her shot. And it's just crazy because this is like one of those things that people were talking about, right? They're like, I don't want to get the shot because the ill affects this. And people were having, for the most part, fairly positive, they were having positive experiences with the whole thing. So the fact that someone that we know about and care about had this reaction to it is really kind of like sad. Are you going to get the second one?
The Johnson & Johnson's only one shot.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit.
So I guess like for me, my initial thought was like, wow, that's pretty convenient. I only have to go in once and that's it. But then after dealing with the fucking, the reaction, I'm like, yeah, I probably would have went in for just 2 shots instead. Fuck this, dude.
Would you have taken it in your ass? Like not in the butthole, but if they would have said, hey, David.
On the ass cheek?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the tetanus shot or something.
Yeah, tetanus shot. You get a tetanus shot in your ass?
I thought so. If I'm not
mistaken. You get it in your arm.
Do you?
Yeah, left arm.
What shot am I thinking about they give you in the ass then?
It was vaccines when we were kids. You remember? I remember when I was a kid, I got my vaccine shots on my ass.
Was
Those
was that a doctor's office or a back alley?
doctor's office. Back alley
okay.
doctor's office.
Yeah.
Healthcare is non-existent here in America.
Dr. Trenchcoat was always so gentle with me as a lad. Oh,
Here's a lollipop.
It tastes like a lollipop. That's amazing. Yeah, I don't remember. Like, I have a real, I have no problem with shots. Like, for the longest time, I was a really big dude, so like my veins aren't really easy to access. And if anyone knows anything about me, I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 16, so I'm very used to having a needle in my skin. And I would get the butterfly needle. Are you familiar with those are?
A butterfly needle? No, I have never heard of that.
So it's a very thin little needle, but it's made for going into things like your hands. And I insisted upon them giving me my shots and giving me my IVs and everything through my hands for the longest time. And my hands look like they're, junky or something. I don't know, but it's all good. So I don't have a problem with needles, but I never had one in the ass that I remember. I don't know.
I remember, getting, it was like, just like, vaccines or whatever fucking shots there were that you need when you were a kid.
Did we get chickenpox vaccines? Like, did we get those? Because I remember having chickenpox as a kid.
I don't think there's a vaccine. I'm not sure if there's a vaccine for chickenpox. They always tell you that you should get them for whatever fucking reason. Yeah, I remember getting chickenpox as a kid.
Yeah, I have a chickenpox scar on my face, and it like my mom's always like, yeah, there's one like right here on the side of my nose is like this little crater type deal going around. I'm sure if you had chickenpox, David, there's even though it might be very minuscule, I bet you have one as well that you just probably never even noticed. It's probably where Dr. Trenchcoat stuck that needle all the time. He's like, here's your chickenpox scar. Oh my god. So you missed out on the Weekly Bazaar yesterday. Who ran that?
Alex ran it, and I think what's her name? Ore. Yeah, Ore. She stepped in.
That's
and
awesome,
Eric Fluga was in there too.
Oh,
so I
really,
was watching.
Eric?
Yeah. I was watching and it was like just like listening and kind of like chiming in here and there, but I was just like in bed in pain. I'm like, I was gonna do the show just in my bed, like fucking nodding off or whatever. But man, it was painful.
David's got a real problem. You see him nodding off over there, fucking junkie. You're like, no,
dying. Like
he's on that Johnson & Johnson smack.
Like a heroin addict.
My God. Let's think what I do today. It's nice out for once. We're back up to. We've had a couple 70-degree weather days, so I've been doing a lot of recording, and I wasn't just blowing smoke up Peter's ass when I was saying that I have difficulty convincing myself to be more out there and not be afraid to kind of like shove a camera in people's faces when I do things. So I have all this footage now, and I just got to figure out what story I'm going to tell with it. And I'm working on my way. So don't worry, guys. Like I am gonna have the footage. I have at least an hour and a half, almost 2 hours worth of footage. So I just gotta like take it, trim it up, turn it into something that's actually watchable, and then you'll be able to see what it's like to live in Vermont. And David, I'd really like it if you do something similar because you live in one of the greatest states in the world. You don't have to do it all the time, but if you could kind of showcase like where David comes from, I'd love that, and I'm sure everybody else would too.
Well, I mean, now that I got the vaccine, I guess I could start going places a bit more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always get weirded out, dude. I don't even like taking out my phone like out in public. I just get weird. Like taking photos, I get weirded out that people are gonna like, what the hell is this guy doing taking photos of? Like, being one of those like Instagram influencers and shit like that. I'm like, I don't want to look like that. Like, please don't look at me.
He's a snitch. Get him.
Yeah, something's wrong with this guy. Who's he talking to? The person on his phone?
Is that the feds? Are you a Fed boy?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you're like, why are you talking with a Southern accent? This is so confusing to me. Oh my God. So now that you've had your vaccine, what was the first thing are you going to go and do? Because I mean, California is on pretty serious lockdown still, right?
Most of California is on pretty serious lockdown. There's a couple of counties that I think they kind of like to let it decide up to the county sheriffs. Like, what are you going to do? Whether or not they're going to, loosen up the restrictions or whatever. But I think for what I really wanted to do was just hang out and see my boys again, like go drinking and stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, like, that's not me though. Like tonight we're going to go to we're gonna go to a little party after my wife gets up. We're gonna go to one of her old friends / coworkers is having a surprise birthday party for his girlfriend, and I think we're gonna escape the house for a few minutes and go have a few drinks. I'm gonna get really stoned, mind you, because I don't really drink. I still have my bottle of Johnny Walker Black that I've had for like since Christmas, and
Wow.
I got like this much. I'm not a big drinker. I don't know what changed from when I was 21 to now, but somewhere along the line, I was like falling asleep because that's my thing is I always fall asleep. Like the moment I'm like I start catching a really good buzz, I'm like good night, nighttime.
Yeah, you get like cozy, you get comfortable. It's like relax and pass out.
Yeah, I'm more of a awake type of dude. If you get my feeling, you know what I mean.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, exactly, my man. Fuck, dude. So, did you see Godzilla versus Kong yet?
Not yet. I actually wanted to see it because I think we have HBO Max. That's how it works,
yeah.
right? You could just stream it like fucking.
Fuck yes, you can. And they have the new Mortal Kombat that's coming out on that. HBO Max, dude, for a platform that was, nothing I had any interest in whatsoever. Like literally, I was not going to get HBO Max. They just been like pumping out the content so in your face that I've had no choice but to keep it. And initially, I was gonna get it for a month so I could watch King Kong versus Godzilla. And then they're like, Mortal Kombat next month, bitches. I'm like, oh. Well, I better keep it for another month. Yeah, exactly. And before you know it, they're gonna have all my fucking money. So good poll, HBO Max. Good dirty trick.
How much is it for you a month?
I think it's not that bad. I think it's like 13, 14, something like that. It's 11 maybe. I think it's like I don't know. It's past 10, but it's worth it. Trust me. Especially maybe you should wait for Mortal Kombat to come out, so then you can watch them both in the same month, and then you can just piss it out.
Well, I think we have HBO Max because we have DirecTV.
Oh,
so HBO is like it's standard for us. It's like, man.
Well, HBO might be, but I don't know if HBO Max is. I don't know if that kind of goes with the same thing. But then again, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, what the hell was I about to say? Oh, you're a gun fan. Not that you own any in the great state of California, but I'm actually getting a new gun.
What kind?
I'm getting a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 380 ACP. It's a personal protection thing because it's weird, right?
So that's like semi-auto or a revolver?
Yeah, semi-auto. I have this thing about like as much as I always make fun of people that carry when they're out in public. Like I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to judge anyone or anything, but like when I see a guy, because in Vermont it's an open carry state, you can literally just walk down the road with a gun strapped to your side. Nobody says two words to you.
Yeah.
But when I see those people in Walmart, in the stores and stuff, I'm like, what are you doing, you asshole? No one's going to attack you right here. But with that being said, I do have this like unrational fear of traveling without a gun, especially in a car.
That's why I like traveling in cars most times, like, road trips and stuff like that. So you can have protection with you.
Yes. And we're going down south after we get the vaccine and everything.
Because we're going down.
South. Yeah, we're going down south, not to live, just to travel for a vacation in June. So we're both gonna have our vaccines by then, so it's gonna be copacetic. But like, I don't like the idea of traveling the long highway, going down roads, in the middle of the night because we don't travel during the day, David. Primarily when we do it because we have all three kids in the back of the car. We don't want to like hear, oh, we need to stop for the bathroom. Oh, we got to do this. We just let them sleep. So we'll travel late at night. I'll stay awake and we'll just travel the whole time. Everybody be asleep. And then by the time we get there, everyone's fucking ready and rearing to go. But I don't like stopping places without knowing that I can't protect my family. So this is where the 380 ACP comes in because it's small enough that I can keep it on my person without, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an asshole. I'm not going to walk in the store and be like, hey, where are the Cheetos at in the Bang energy drink?
Put it in the bag. Put it in the bag.
Here's your change. Fucking, I'm not that guy. Like you would never know I had a gun on me until, unless something bad was happening. But
that's what I would be like. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm getting it. And at first the wife was like, well, we really don't need it. We can bring the shotgun. I was like, we're going to bring the shotgun. We're just going to throw it in the
coming
back.
in the trunk.
Yeah, no, it's not.
You're riding shotgun. That's what we call it. That's why we call it riding shotgun. You're holding that while we're driving.
She's like, we've never traveled with a gun. I was like, what happened when we traveled to Florida? We had a gun? Yeah, we had the Walther with us the whole time. Oh, yeah. What about the last time we went to North Carolina? Oh yeah, we had the gun. I was like, yeah, we have not traveled down south without a gun.
There's this company that I follow on Instagram. They specialize in making like essentially gun safes inside your car. So they cut out
Really?
like the back seat. Where you sit your ass down, it opens up and it's actually like a fucking full on vault. Like opens up, your guns are in there, all the shit you need in there. It's fucking, and they do this like for any fucking car. They have like trucks, anything you have, any design you want kind of thing. Like those campers, the flatbed itself is like an entire vault that just pulls out like a drawer.
That's
So I'm
nice.
like, holy, yeah, I would like to get something like that for the car and have what I can.
I kind of like the Jay-Z thought of it all, where I'm like, well, my glove compartment's locked, and so is the trunk in the back, and I know my rights, so you're gonna need a warrant for that.
Yeah, right. Exactly, dude. I was like looking up laws and shit. I'm like, all right.
Speaking of
cops,
speaking of famous rappers avoiding cops, DMX died.
Right, dude. That's fucking. I thought he was okay. I thought he got out of the hospital.
No, the only thing he escaped from was the mortal coil. He's dead.
He's gone, man. That fucking sucks. At 52,
Yeah.
like he was 50 years old, man. I mean, like, fuck.
Apparently,
Jesus
the
Christ.
last one that X was going to give it to was himself.
Yeah, he got
Somebody
X'd out, man.
Yeah, he did. Somebody posted that. Was that you?
Mm-mm.
No, okay. It was somebody clever. I assumed it was you because you're always the quickest with your memes. And they're like, dude, he hasn't died yet. And he's like, man, close enough. Fucking sad, dude. What was your first? Yeah. What was the first introduction to DMX?
Obviously that album where it had, X Gonna Give It To You.
Yeah.
Because at the time, yeah, my sister was always listening to that shit. So I was like, okay, got to listen to it now too. But
that's the one with I just love when you can bring a whole crew, just a bigger piece of cake for me to chew a hole through.
Yeah, he's a great rapper, man. Shit, dude.
He really was. But unfortunately, like later on in his career, he got really kind of homophobic. And I didn't dig that too much. I'm not even like a super PC guy, but like there's a way to rap about, homosexuality and have it be, entertaining. And there's a way to rap about it where you're just kind of being obnoxious. And I feel like he made a turn into that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not familiar with his later work, but
I'll find the link to the song, but it literally said something along the lines of like, just because I'm, doing something with this man, I'm not sucking his dick. I'll send you the link. It's
wow.
It's all right. Yeah. It's definitely not Bo Gabo or Rough Riders. David, I gotta say, dude, as much fun as I am having right this second, my kids are driving for my attention. They're destroying my house after I cleaned it up.
I could hear it, yeah.
You were amazing today, David. I gotta say, dude, you were just so engaging, and I really appreciate you stepping up to the bat and just filling in for our long lost captain, who is is off making the wife happy, dude. So thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate
happy birthday to her, actually.
Yeah, happy birthday, Kaz. Fucking A. Hey, David, do you want to tell them about what kind of shows we have on? Oh, actually, hold on, let me do this first. Hey guys, we have a website, and guess what? It's USUKnetwork.com, and this amazing website is beautiful. It's functional. It is made by the great people over at WebOrchard.com, and let me tell you about WebOrchard.com. They make websites. You might think to yourself, "Oh, I'm just going to go to a third-party thing, and I'm going to make my own website because it's going to be great." Probably not. It's probably going to be okay. It's going to be there, but it's not going to be the way that you think it's going to be. But guess what? If you hire somebody to do it, if you reach out to the great people at WebOrchard.com, they're going to build you an amazing website. Whether you sell things on Etsy, whether you have an OnlyFans, whether you do whatever it is you do where you need an online presence, these are the type of people that you need to have in your life, and they are just going to do everything for you. And it's not even that much money. Trust me. Reach out to WebOrchard.com and see what kind of deals they can make you, and make sure you mention us. Be like, hey, I heard it from the USUK guys. David, what kind of shows do we have over on the USUKnetwork.com?
Well, we have the weekly Wednesday Night Live.
Yeah.
Which we do.
Yes.
With Alex. And we have the weekly Bazaar, which I believe we're going to start doing it. It's going to be TS and I. We're going to kind of take over.
Yes.
Because now Alex has that, he's got to focus on that radio show he's got now.
Yes.
And also we have the USUK Chronicles, which is hosted by Jamie Westwood and hosted by Jamie Westwood and TS, or Tom Stevens also.
Yes.
And of course, the show.
this show. What's the difference with Alan, Tom, and sometimes David Rabe? David, again, man, I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate you. I really cannot express myself in the way that I could to let you know how much I appreciate you. So,
Thank
hey
you.
guys, this has been What's the Difference podcast. I'm Tom Bruno.
I'm David Rabe.
And we fucking love you. Peace out, guys.
Love you guys.
When it comes to culture either side of the Atlantic, no one does it better. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Usuc's What's the Difference podcast with Alex Whiteley and Tom Bruno.